Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we will be talking about Rio 2. Now Rio 2 starts off with everybody celebrating New Year's with a party in Rio, with our main characters Jules and Blue, saying that it's great that Ralphie can watch the kids. And as you know, Ralphie and Nico and Pedro are friends of Blue's from the first movie. So, everybody's celebrating, having a good time, and singing and enjoying the New Year's. But they see, but they see Ralphie dancing with his wife Eva on the dance floor, and Blue and Jules say, Ralphie, then who is watching the kids? And then and 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 then Ralphie tells Blue that he put Louise in charge of watching the kids. And Louise said that he put Tiny in charge of watching the kids after they find Louise on the dance floor as well. And Jules and Blue says, you put Tiny in charge of watching the kids? And Louise says, relax. Tiny's a great babysitter. And then we cut over to Tiny, who has been strapped to a firework because the kids want to put off fireworks for the new year. But before anything dangerous can happen, Blue and Jules rush home, and Blue tells the kids, what have we told you about putting off fireworks when we are not here to supervise? And 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 then the kids say, well, we asked Tiny, and then Blue says, that's even worse. And then he says, sorry, Tiny. And then Tiny says, it's okay, but you don't have to pay me, Blue. And then it turns out that Blue accidentally tied himself to the fireworks, and it goes off. But before this happens, he says, kids, we are the last blue macaws on Earth. And what do I always say? Birds of blue feathers have to stick together, the kids mock. And then Blue ties himself to the fireworks, and the fireworks end up going off. And then it becomes a beautiful firework of colors, and then we get the title page of Rio 2, and then on the next morning, Jules is getting breakfast, but Blue have already made the kids pancakes, and then and 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 then before this, and 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 then before this, we actually cut over to Linda and Tulio, who is freeing a bird, and they actually go down a river after the bird tries to warn them that they are going down a river. But don't worry, they are okay, and they find a blue macaw feather, and they are determined to find the other blue macaws and to protect them. So they are off to the Amazon jungle to find the rest of the blue macaws. And when this is happening, that morning when Blue is making everyone pancakes, Blue and Jules see themselves on the news, and they tell them that they have discovered another blue feather. And Tulio and Linda tell them that they have found another blue feather, and they know that some other blue macaws are out there, and they are going to find them and protect them. And then we cut over to the bad guy who is trying to destroy the blue macaw's land by building buildings there instead of leaving the blue macaws alone. So, with this in mind, Blue and, well, mostly Jewel and Blue, when it comes around to it, decide that they are going to fly to the Amazon and help Linda and Tulio find the rest of the blue macaws. So with this in mind, Nico and Pedro are trying to find talent to put in the next Carnival show, but they are just not inspired. So they decide to help Blue go to the Amazon so that they can actually get some inspiration. So Nico and Pedro and Ralphie actually travel with them to the Amazon to help Jules and Blue find the rest of the blue macaws. So we get a montage with them traveling through the Amazon. And they finally make it, and then Blue and then Blue meets Jules' father, and Jules and her family are reunited. It is here where it is here where we meet Jules' father. It is here where we meet Jules. Jules' father, and it is here where we are, where we also meet Roberto, Jules' best friend. who also had the crush on Jules, if you pay attention, but 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 you know, I digress. So anyway, the next day, Blue and Jules' father, they fly around the village, and and Jules and Jules' father tells Blue that it is time that we shake that city off you if you are going to be part of the tribe. So it is now training day. So he is going to teach him what what they know, how what the tribe does to survive in the jungle. But he fails at everything that Jules' father had taught him. And Jules is back home spending time with the kids. And it turns out that Roberto has even taught Blue's son how to fly backwards, which Blue cannot do yet. But don't worry, he is going to get better. Okay, back back with Tulio and Linda. They make it to the Amazon, but then they but then they see construction workers cutting down trees. And then Linda tries to tell them to stop, but Tulio stops her. And before they walk away, they actually get captured and tied to a tree for the for for the remainder of the movie. And it turns out that Nico and Pedro have found talent for the carnival show with Tia's help, the oldest daughter of Blue. But but she's a teenager. So they have worked in finding auditions, and it turned out that Tia has really been working night and day to find talent. So they start auditioning people to be in the carnival show. And we also get Nigel back as a fortune teller bird. But then he actually follows Blue and the rest of the family to Rio to get his to actually get his revenge, along with Gabby a frog and Charlie. And an animal named Charlie, which I don't understand which animal he is. I think he's a snail or something. So anyway. So anyway. They used to work for the circus, but well, they used to work for this stand, and he was a fortune teller bird, and Charlie and 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 Charlie was a dancer, and Gabby was a poisonous frog, but they all escaped the but they all escaped the fortune teller stand together, and they went off to Rio to get their revenge on Blue. So Nigel's plan is to use the poison from Gabby to poison Blue and to never make Blue fly again, like Blue did for Nigel when he made him fly off the plane in the first movie. So anyway, well, this plan backfires because Nigel because Nigel because Nigel pretends to be Bob the Bird, and he actually ends up getting into the Carnival show, and then when he has his chance to destroy Blue, he actually misses it, and it's only Gabby who tries to warn him, but him pretending to be Bob the Bird and for being so famous, he actually misses this chance. So, with Blue not fitting in to Jules' family, he decides to surprise Jewel with breakfast in bed, but he ends up picking from the round tree of fruit that he is going to get Jewel, and he ends up picking from the enemy side, and they end up playing a game of soccer that Blue also loses the two nut trees that they have growing in the forest that the two birds have split it for their tribes, but the game is whoever wins the soccer game gets the whole forest of fruit and nut trees. But since Blue lost the game for the tribe, the other tribe gets the other fruit in the nut trees. And since Blue cannot fit into the tribe, he actually goes away and he actually finds Linda's camp, and he actually puts his fanny pack away, and he vows that he will learn the way of the jungle for Jewel and the rest of the family so that he can fit in with the tribe. But it turned out that he knew that Blue knew that Linda and Tulio were in trouble, and it turned out that Birdo that actually the bird Roberto has followed him to the camp, and Blue and Blue actually tells Roberto that he needs to go back and that and actually and, and actually warn everyone that the humans are coming to destroy their home, and that he needs to go and find his friends so they can work together to save the tribe. So actually, so actually, Roberto ends up doing this, but Blue ends up flying back to the tribe and saying, look, I know we have our differences, but we need to work together to save our home. So everybody, even the ones who took their food in the beginning of the movie when they lost the game, end up working together to fight off the construction workers to actually save their home. And it turned out that Blue and Nigel actually gets caught up in an explosion together because Nigel and Blue both have a Nigel and Blue both have a dynamite stick on their tail, and Blue tries to help Nigel. That's it, and with this, Blue tries to help Nigel by saying, "Get away, save yourself." But no, it ends up causing an explosion. But Blue and Nigel are fine. But they end up, but but they do end up getting in a but they do end up being tied up together, and Nigel is hitting Blue with his wing, and with this, Gabby tries to hurt Blue like Nigel was trying to do at the beginning, but Gabby misses and ends up hitting Nigel instead with what Nigel thought was poisoned from her, what Nigel thought was poison from her skin. But it turned out that the frog wasn't poisoned, and she ended up being together with Nigel and actually and actually they end up being together forever, and they end up going back to Rio for testing in the lab, and it turned out that Blue ends up saving the day, and Jules' father ends up calling him the right name, Blue, and he tells them to lead the charge, and they end up having a great relationship after all. And then, at the end of the movie, the Amazon and Jules family ends up being safe because Linda and Tulio end up building a wildlife preserve. And at the end, it turned out that the big show is here, and they call it Amazon Untamed, and we see all the talent that they have got for Carnival, and it turned out to be a big dance party. And that is the end of Rio 2. Bye, and see you guys for my next video. Bye.